I'm going to pull an angel card for us first, and then I'll set it aside.
Welcome to Align and Grind, the podcast where business strategy meets astrology.
And where we put the woo in the work.
I'm Karen, a holistic business coach, helping soul-led entrepreneurs build sustainable success without burnout or the BS.
And I'm Heather, a spiritual life guide, intuitive astrologer, and energy alchemist, here to help you align with your soul path.
Each week, we'll blend grounded strategy with cosmic insight, giving you the tools to grow your business your way.
By syncing up with your energy, your astrology, and your unique gifts. No more forcing what isn't aligned.
This is Align and Grind.
So we've been discussing Aries season. We're wrapping it up right now. We've talked about first house themes, and we've talked about Mars and how we use our energy. And now we're just going to kind of go through some of the things that we haven't discussed and talk about the I am energy.
Ooh, fun.
Yeah.
Fun. Love the I am energy. It's good.
So
Good.
much going on.
Yeah. Almost too much to fit into one.
Yeah, there's a lot, right?
Yeah.
So how do we know, if we know who we are, we know the message now that we want to send out and make sure that our clients or potential clients understand that. How do we convey our energy and bring it into like our emails or our About You page?
It's interesting because it's really like energy is funny because we feel it, we know it, but when you're talking about that electronic exchange where you're looking at your computer or you're looking at your phone, it's different, right? It's coming through this filter. And so with that, it's really when we're stepping into who we are, we have to be authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we're not authentic, when we're really not leaning into who we are and our core values and really describing those in our words and the words that we choose, our audience just picks up on that. And they're just like, I don't resonate with that.
Do you think that it's partially getting really comfortable with who you are, independent of your business? So that
Yes.
when you show up, you can be yourself and express yourself authentically. And even
and I think, with that, it's really about making sure that you're okay with making mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking earlier when I did my live yesterday, like everything went sideways. Like my notes that normally keep me on track completely disappeared. Like the camera didn't come on, the microphone wouldn't turn on. And like for the first 8 minutes, it was like this clusterfuck. It was horrible. But then I laughed through it, right? Like when I finally everything clicked in, I still didn't have my notes and I just was like laughing. Like that was the authentic me. But a year ago, I would have made an excuse and I wouldn't have gone live. I would have just shut it down and said, oh, technical issues. And I would have like kind of hightailed it out of there because I would have been embarrassed. I would have been like worried about how were people perceiving me.
Do you think that in your normal life, are you a perfectionist or do you just be in a hot mess sometimes?
So it's funny because I want to allow myself to be that hot mess person, but I end up really looking to be, okay, I gotta be perfect. Like I gotta have it all put together. And that is what was modeled for me, And I remember as a kid, like everything had its place in our home. We'd have somebody would come in to clean the house for my mom, and she'd have my sister and I clean that house before they got there because she wanted it looking nice before the housekeeper came to clean.
I would be that person, I think. Just with that, though, not with many other things in life.
So it's kind of like, so for us, my sister and I, we laugh about it all the time because we kind of revolted against that. And my mom will come in, we always used to laugh, oh, she's going to do the white glove treatment. She's going to walk in with the white glove and, check for dust and stuff. And, where now we're kind of like, yeah, you're going to take us as we are. But still, when I have somebody new coming to the house, I still want to have this presence about that I'm presenting the best foot forward.
Mm-hmm. because we
you
feel
know?
it as a reflection of ourselves, but we can
Right.
get more lenient with it and realize that it doesn't define our value. And I think that really translates over into what we present, like on video, let's say.
Yeah.
So yes, we want people to feel like we've got our shit together, but at
Yeah.
the same point, like it doesn't define my value if sometimes I mess up or can't come up with a word. That's just real life. And I think it's also
Yeah.
more relatable.
I think so too. Yeah. Like I think people, when they see the real you, when they see you make mistakes or mispronounce words or mix something up or not remember something, they go, "Oh, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone." Right. And I think for us in business, we've been told like we have to just be, like this perfect professional. You've got to be polished, you've got to be refined, you've got to always be on. And it became like so commercialized
And
that
that's
it
what was,
was fake.
yes. And you feel it. I feel it.
Yes.
And now
Yep.
everything's really transitioning. But think of our conditioning growing up and then in school and in the corporate world. I mean,
Yeah.
that's your customer service is the face, is how you're expected to act. So then transitioning to becoming your own brand is you still carry that over.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because there's always this, originally it was you weren't your brand. You created this business and that was the brand and you were separate. So you could kind of hide behind the brand, the persona, and present this imagery of who you were. So when you were writing that about page, you could kind of create it based on what you wanted it to be, not what it was. Where now there is no separation. You are your brand.
Mhm.
The brand is you. And so when you are writing that about page, if you aren't genuine, if you aren't authentic, it's going to show through because, as I say, like you tell one lie, you're going to have to keep telling a lie and keep track of them. So the easiest way is just to be honest and tell the truth. And this is the same way, right? It's like, just be honest. Who are you? Where'd you come from? What is your experience? Don't make it bigger than it is because you'll never end up keeping up with it all.
Especially for a service-based business.
Yeah.
And this is just a side note that I was thinking of when we were talking. I think that there's something so empowering when you start to put yourself out there and you're creating content, like doing videos and really putting
Mhm.
yourself in that position where you're unscripted. I think you evolve more into your authentic self as well.
Yeah.
So, like you saying that you felt, you had to have everything perfect. And then the more and more you get comfortable with putting your face online, I'm sure that you're evolving into more of your authentic self as you go.
Yeah.
And it's very empowering too.
And there's something, it's freeing,
Yeah.
when you think about it, like, because then you're not having to like, what's my checklist before I do something to make sure that I'm presenting properly.
Mhm.
And I think the being authentic and genuine is going to be even more so on that priority list because with the invention of AI, that people want to know who you really are
Yeah.
and if you're real or not. And you know, just I wasn't watching the news, but I caught a clips of it, and one of the interviewers was saying, "So was this written by AI?" Like, and she was challenging, the person in government to say, like, "Did you actually write this, or was this written by AI?" Like that's how integrated is becoming, and it's going to be more so. And I think for us as small business owners, it's what's going to set us apart is to be able to say, this is me, this is what you're getting. So when we choose to go live, you can do the faceless marketing, right? Like I would have loved to done faceless marketing all along, but I realized in the end, if I'm not my face, then people aren't going to know it's really me.
And there's so much of the AI generated content that it
Yes.
doesn't really set anyone apart and it's all in the same voice essentially. So even if you feed
Yeah.
it your own information, it's just going to regurgitate something that's just so commonplace, I guess. And
Yeah.
like I was faulty with that too, or am at fault for doing that sometimes because I would take my notes, I handwrite everything, and then I take my notes, I put it in like Chat GPT and then have it like clean it up for me. But what it would produce wasn't me. So
Right.
that, along with I know that it's accelerating, and I just watched a couple of interviews and I started reading her book, Wendy Webb. Have you heard of her?
Okay. No, no.
So she's talking about how AI is it's causing like this big cognitive decline. And
Yeah.
I realized that even with my spelling, of course, we have spell check on everything.
Yeah.
I used to be a great speller. I have such a difficult time now. I was an English lit major. I love to read. I love to write, but now I'm sloppy with it. I forget like my grammar. I forget my punctuation because I've relied on AI to like clean it all up. So I just put my notes in. So now
Right.
I'm kind of on this, okay, I'm going to use it to help me with tech questions because I have an issue with that. So then I have an instruction manual. But even if I have to take longer to produce something and don't produce as much, don't write as much, it's going to be me.
Right. The quality's there, right? It's going to
Yeah.
be authentically written. Yeah. And I think, it's interesting you're talking about just, the cognitive decline. I think it started long before even the AI became, because like I watched the evolvement of computers and cell phones and texting and the short forms and grammar's out the window because it takes too long to type in grammatically correct punctuation, right? So it's gone. Cursive. My mom and I were actually having this conversation. Like most kids don't know how to read cursive anymore because everything's text based.
My daughter's almost
Yep.
20. She doesn't know cursive. She learned to write her name in cursive when she was young, thanks to my
Yeah.
parents. But if I can't write her a note in cursive, she wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And think of GPS, same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
guilty of that too. I don't know how to make it from many places without it. We just rely on it. So,
Right. Yeah. And that's it. So I think, there's so many variants.
mhm.
We weren't even really aware of how much of an impact it was having, even though a lot of educational experts we were warning us for a
Mhm.
long time, like, yeah, computers not before like fourth grade, not before, because kids need that eye hand coordination. There's dexterity with, like, there's all this scientific,
Mhm.
and we were just like, yeah, but it's so much easier and it's fun.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
new.
So it's a balancing, isn't it, for your business because it can help with so much, but I think the most important thing is that we use it to help do the tasks that aren't creative, aren't taking away
Yeah.
from our creativity and us delivering who we are.
Right. It's a launching point, right? That's
Yeah,
what I tell clients and members is like, it's a starting point. It sparks the creativity so you can take it and refine it and make it your own, but it's not the final version.
and when
Yeah.
Uranus moves into Gemini in July, things are just gonna. Uranus is tech, among
Oh, okay.
other things. And
Yeah.
then Gemini, which is information. So yeah, we're gonna see such a an
So do you think
acceleration.
it's gonna, how do you think it's gonna affect AI? Is it gonna make it like a leaps and bound
Yeah,
advancement?
yeah, like the AGI for sure
Yeah.
would be a thing. I heard someone say, I don't even know what he was an expert in, but within the next few years, that it'll replace so much jobs, but then everyone will be using tech. Like this,
Yeah.
it'll completely revolutionize how we do business too. So,
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
and
Okay. Yeah. Now my
I
head's
forget
thinking
his
about that.
name. Wait, Mo Mo Gaudet, Gawdat. If anyone's
Okay.
interested, look up some of his videos. He speaks about it. He's the ex Google. I don't know, he worked, I don't know, he did like tech at Google. He was like the top person. Now he's devoted his life to kind of speaking about those things. So,
Against them?
he, no,
Or,
he's a proponent, but he said we need to treat them like our children.
oh, interesting. Okay. So give it some rules and boundaries and guidelines, and it's
And
not a
love,
free for all.
I
And
guess I don't
love
want to say
and
love,
love.
but
Yeah.
to make it grow up to be good.
Okay.
So it's going,
Yeah. Right. Like yeah, like a positive member of society, right? Like not,
yeah,
okay.
it's interesting.
Hmm,
Um,
interesting. Okay.
so we talked about some of the I am, but how do we know that, and this is especially important for people who are just launching a business, but it's also
Mhm.
a checking in point. How do we know that we're doing something that's really fulfilling to our soul? And possibly because and I know you said the same thing, like I want to work my whole life. I want to feel like I'm of purpose in the world. That's important to me. But working and doing something that's not like feeding someone else's dreams isn't something that I would do, but doing the work that I do is fulfilling to my soul. I will do it till the day I die, and I'll
Yeah.
change it along the way. So let's talk a little bit about the Ikigai. And I
Ikigai.
know you had something similar when I started with you about like
The Venn
identifying
diagram. Yeah.
and yeah. So Ikigai is the Japanese secret to a long and happy life. And it's doing what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, what you can get paid for, and then putting it all together
Right.
so that you're on track and you're fulfilling your purpose and you feel good about it and you can actually get paid for it.
Yeah. And it kind of it goes back to the starving artist, like that mindset that, society says, oh, artists love what they do. Why are they getting paid for it? It's not work. It's a love, it's a passion, right? And and then we challenge that and say, no, like you want to be working your passion. You
It'd
want to be
be
following your
sad,
heart
it'd be
and
sad
getting paid
to
for it.
live in a world where you don't have art and music and all these creative things. Like
Yeah,
we all have those sparks inside of us for a reason, and it's all
right.
diverse.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So following our passion is so important because if not, then why are you going to get up in the morning and go to work?
Mhm.
If you really don't love it or even like it, then why are you going?
And then
You
there
know?
can be this issue, especially for people who have spiritual businesses, that they feel guilty almost for taking money for what they,
Yes.
because it doesn't feel like work. What I do doesn't feel like work. And I've had to really reset my mindset around it because I've done the studies, I've mastered the skill, not, I don't think you could ever master astrology, but
Yeah.
I have the skills. Um, I can deliver a message, I can deliver value to people just
Yeah.
because I love it. It's almost like this cultural thing that we were like taught, like you shouldn't love work, or
Right.
work is drudgery.
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
when you retire one day, long way in the
Yeah.
future, then you can do what you love.
Yeah.
But
Right.
this is just a pipe dream to be able to actually do what you love every day and get paid for it. But then
Right.
you've got those other elements, like, is it something that the world needs?
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, right? So when we start thinking about, we kind of break down those four elements, right? Doing what you love. Well, why shouldn't we get paid for it? And I don't really like to use the word should, but why wouldn't we get paid for doing something that we love, no
Mhm.
matter what it is, right? Construction work, trades, being an engineer, whatever, right? If you love it, then get paid for it. I think, you kind of, if you want to dig into the root of it, then, you start looking at, you know, money when somebody is super wealthy, right? The negativity that comes with the amount of wealth.
Mhm.
And society says, well, you must have, that much money is bad, right? There's like this stigma of you're not really the highest quality of person if you're going to have all this abundance, financial abundance, right? Society's kind of trained us that, if we work hard and we earn a decent living, then we're of value.
Absolutely.
Whereas those that earn a lot of money, when you look at like the millionaires and billionaires, just because they have a lot of money doesn't mean they aren't of value and they're not providing a value,
Right.
right? But there is this stigma that too much is not good.
And yeah, it comes from culture or our families. And I
Yeah.
think we identify that very early belief. It's,
Yeah.
money is the root of all evil is, one that kind of plays into that. And
Yeah.
I've been really philosophizing on it because then on top of that, then I feel like there's also an enough point, and I think that we need to know our enoughness. Maybe we'll have to bring that up in one of our future
Oh,
episodes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. So when we start thinking about that, we're like going, okay, well, where's my worth? AKA, what's my value? And if we are not supposed to earn gobs of money because that means we're doing something that isn't necessarily good, that it's actually, the root of all evil, right? Then we limit ourselves, we hold ourselves back,
Mhm.
and we say, well, we can't really follow our passion. And I remember when I first started coaching and I was, kind of educating people about the holistic perspective. I don't know how many people came to me that were Reiki masters and said, you shouldn't be charging for your service. And I'm like, but why? Because you're not supposed to. You're not, that's not right. And I'm like, but I paid to get trained as a Reiki master teacher, and that's okay. But I'm not allowed to charge to actually help others. Like it was really it was a winless conversation
And I think
because,
that conversation continues, right?
yes,
But
yeah,
not only like using that as an example, not only did you learn the skill and then buy the equipment, but then you also have to manage your energy so much that to be able to perform that,
right,
you have to be able to ground yourself. You need to, meditate daily. You need to do Reiki on yourself daily. So, um, and then you could bring up other things like doctors and nurses. They're providing this whole,
right,
service.
yeah,
Should they not be paid for what they do? So I
yeah,
still this thing in the spiritual community uh, that people feel like, well, how do you charge? But it's all an energy exchange.
yeah,
Money is paper or numbers on a screen. It's just the value that we're giving. And then when people recognize that value,
right,
and I think that that's where the evil versus non-evil comes from. It's like if you're transparent, if you say, this is what I do, and this is what I deliver, and if you exceed those expectations, I think always giving more than what
yeah,
um, you're expected to give and feeling good about what you do, and then people want to pay you. And
right,
there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah,
You're not being sneaky, you're not stealing money, you're not monopolizing anything, you're not I don't know.
yeah.
You
No,
know.
and I think you're right, right? It's that perceived value
Mhm.
of the exchange of energy, but it's going to be an exchange of energy. You can't get away from it,
Mhm.
right? So whether somebody's going to pay me in cash or pay you in cash for
Mhm.
what you're doing, there's going to be an exchange of energies. At some point, there has to be. It's never just a one-way street.
It's almost
And
worth if
so,
you undervalue or don't take any money for things, I think, because
yeah,
you're not placing enough value on yourself. You're not having that self-worth. And I think that that creates an issue.
yeah. And you're saying no to the energy, right? You're actually stopping the energy by not accepting payment
Very true.
in this instance, right? Like you're basically saying, no, And so then what happens is the energy stops, like it becomes stagnant. You become stagnant. So you're not going to grow. You're not going to continue to thrive as an individual, not even as a business person, but as an individual, you're not going to thrive
It's
because
just
you've stopped the energy.
it's meant to flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
like right now I started doing some mediumship work. I've just felt
Oh,
to do it. And
yeah.
but I'm still new at it and I've done it for free to get enough confirmation, but I put it on my website for $11. And I put on there, this is for an energy exchange as I develop my skills.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I have to have some type of exchange to make
Yeah.
it to make it flow, to make it work.
Right. Yeah. Because that's ultimately in the end, like, yeah, that's the only way it does work. Right. Like people don't go into business to lose money. And you don't go into business just to break even.
Mhm.
Like you don't go to work to just not get by, right? If you're going to work for somebody else, you go to work because you want to earn enough to pay your bills, put some money away, have a nice life, whatever that nice life definition is for you,
Yeah.
right? Which is different for everybody. So whether you're working for yourself or somebody else, that exchange has to happen.
And that kind of
You
comes
know?
to that enoughness. But yeah, we'll definitely dig in more there. I think that's important, especially right now. And we'll mention
Yeah.
that a little at the end, a little preview of
Yeah.
next.
For next month. Yeah. 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 So, but and I think, kind of circling back to the Ikigai, which
Mhm.
I have to pause before I say it because one, I want to kind of chuckle because I think I'm calling somebody icky,
Yeah.
and I have to like really kind of, think about it. But, it's about that patient piece,
Mhm.
like when you're really learning to dig into following your passion and staying in alignment, that it doesn't happen overnight.
Mhm.
Clarity comes with time. And that piece of it is part of, I think, the work like you do brings that clarity for so many people,
Mhm. She's
right? Like they're able to, like, from between all of your skill sets, it's like, yeah, this is, you're on the right track. Or, let's talk about how do you adjust it? Like,
Mhm.
how do you fine tune things? But it's the patience, right? And still being persistent
Mhm.
and not being afraid. And I think we were talking about that whole, kind of the fear-based decision making and how to stay in alignment.
Mhm.
An acronym that I always use is false expectations appearing real,
Right.
because when it's a fear, we need to dig into it. We can't be afraid of it. We can't run from it. We need to know what's there that isn't actually part of our reality
Right.
so we can move through it.
Which is interesting because Aries season or Aries is related to the solar plexus. And I think that we can learn a lot by understanding the issues that we might have or the hesitation that we have around certain things and understanding that it's actually fear. And
Mm,
when we have
yeah.
that resistance, and then looking at a dysregulated nervous system, are you having stomach issues? And, there's some other
Mhm.
things there. But when it's regulated, then you're able with confidence to go after and pursue your life purpose, and you're moving through barriers and you're not afraid to take chances or to put yourself out there. I think that working, like doing some solar plexus exercises and really feeling into that anytime we come up with resistance, and
Yeah.
we could check
The
it
gut punch.
with, yeah, the gut punch. Like, do
Uh,
you have things that come up that are like, if I don't book this client, I'm not going to be able to survive. I need this money. What are some other, like, if I don't do this, I'll get behind, or why is this working for everyone else but not for me? That we're putting ourselves into that survival mode, instead
right.
of facing things courageously and
Hmm.
knowing that we do have worth.
Yeah. And there's that trust piece, right? Like really kind of leaning in and trusting yourself and letting go of self-doubt, right? Because so self-doubt is the number one killer of confidence.
Mhm.
So our confidence gets shaken by our fears.
Mhm.
And so understanding if we're coming up against something and we're hesitant, then we have to say, what's holding us back? Why do we not want to do this?
Mhm.
What's the fear that's associated with it? And then, okay, how can I, identify the fear, name it? I think is super important to be able to name what you're afraid of. And sometimes that naming alone can be scary,
Mhm.
right? People are like, I don't want to name it because when you name it, you have to acknowledge it and you have to take action, right? So it's, yeah. So I think, going back to that being authentic, if you can't be authentic with yourself to acknowledge some of those deeper fears, then you are going to stagnate. You're not going to grow. You're not going to thrive.
And you're not
You
going to
know?
blossom into that authentic version of yourself even more. And it's difficult work. It's shadow work. It's just probably going back and looking at your inner child and seeing where this came up and kind of comforting them and
Mhm.
doing some have you ever done the EFT? I think it's called EFT, like the tapping.
Emotional freedom technique. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
tapping.
It's
Yeah,
happy. Yep.
so moving through that, I've had some people, I've had someone walk me through that before.
Yep.
And then I had an app for it. And I just don't do it very often, but I know it's acknowledging wherever you're
Yep.
tapping
Yeah.
what the fear is,
What is
your
it? It's this, 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 this,
your
and then
armpits.
the collarbones, and then yeah, and then the
Yeah.
outside. Yeah. Yeah. So no, and it is. It's super powerful because you're interrupting the frequency,
Mhm.
right? And there's interestingly enough, my nephew, he's he's 20. I think he's 20 now, or no, just 19. Anyways, but when he was a young child, my sister and I, we were looking at, they have EFT bears for kids.
Oh, I've never heard of.
And it's amazing. And so basically the child will use the bear with the EFT therapist
Mhm.
to tap on the bear
What a great idea.
in lieu of themselves.
Okay.
Right. So they basically kind of charge the bear as themselves, but the bear will light up at the tapping points when they're tapping.
Oh, that's so interesting. And that reminds me of Reiki a little bit, where you're doing distance Reiki and you can do it on a stuffed animal.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
still, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So it's like I find EFT very powerful. And to your point, I don't use it enough.
Mhm. We have
Yeah.
all these tools and we forget to use them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what happens, right? Like you almost need like a list. Oh, have I done tapping today? Have
Yes.
I done this
Oh,
today? Have I done?
routine.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
but I think being self-aware is probably the most important point. And then you have these tools and you just have to take them out of the toolbox and use them. But being
Yeah.
aware of those fears. And I feel like there's someone watching right now that is maybe afraid of taking that first step to launching their business. And, so maybe that's someone that needs to hear this,
Right.
how to
Yeah.
recognize and move through it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's it starts to, like I'm looking off into space as I'm thinking about it because everybody when they make the decision they want to go into business for themselves, they hit the first wall of fear,
Mhm.
which is what is everybody going to think of me?
Yeah.
Are they going to judge me? And that was actually this morning's musing that I did over on Instagram was, you know, uh, so I'm afraid of being judged. How do I get over it? Well, everybody's going to judge you, good, bad, or indifferent, right? But we are our worst and our hardest judges.
Mhm.
But when we're judging other people, we're not judging them because we're thinking negatively. We're judging because they're setting the bar for us.
And they're going to judge us either way. So we might
Right.
as well just do what we want, do what we like.
Exactly. Yeah. And their judge is not going to be paying our bills.
And a lot of
Yeah.
times too, depending on what we're feeling we could be judged for, it's because the people haven't been in our shoes or they're afraid to be in our shoes because it does take a lot of courage to do this. So I heard someone say online recently that he was getting a lot of hate. He was a younger man from people for posting these videos and being on TikTok and how they were making fun of him. It's obvious to me as, a mom, an adult,
Yeah.
that they're doing it because they don't have the courage to do it themselves, right? There's a lot of different reasons. Do you find that everyone that you work with, especially the newer business owners or people that are like starting in that creation phase, does everyone fear being judged? And do you think that it's like judgment from family, friends, or judgment from putting themselves out there, or just taking that leap?
I I think it starts with family and friends, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the reason I say unfortunately is because society has dictated that we go to school, we go to college, university, we get a job. We don't go to school, graduate high school, and start our own business. Like that's just so we fear that our family is going to say, "You're throwing your life away. Why are you doing this? Like, get a real job."
And that happened to me in middle age because I
Yeah,
did. I went to college, I graduated, I worked at the same company for over 2 decades. And then as a middle-aged woman, I decided to go on my own path. And I had a lot of judgment, or maybe perceived judgment, but definitely some comments that weren't very empowering or supportive.
yeah,
And um, but then I also like this is my life, and
yeah.
I hope that everyone understands that if they're doing the same thing, like anyone else's judgments, which are also usually rooted in fear,
Right.
don't aren't your business.
Yeah,
Because we just make choices, and
yeah,
it could work out, it couldn't work out. We have to pivot. We always will. Life will always be this process of tension and then release, and we learn, and as long as we're learning and evolving.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's funny because I think before we started, we were kind of talking about that, ram versus lamb piece. And I think this is part of that, right? As you're bringing up people who are starting their business. And, I think, taking the lambs to slaughter comes to mind, right? Like, oh, I'm going to start my own business. Oh, I'm going to get slaughtered. Like I'm going to be just swallowed up by the wolves and I'm not going to be strong enough. And circling back, we are our own hardest judges.
And that's so true because you can come in like that, just very vulnerable,
Yeah,
very
yeah,
meek. I'm trying to think of other lamb related words, but yeah, we come
yeah,
in like that.
yeah,
And then at some point, I think we pivot. And part of that, I'm sure, is because we've gained some self-worth and confidence in this
mhm,
new path, or, recognizing the obstacles that we've overcome and the journey that we've taken can,
yeah,
turn that energy into that confidence and the ram.
right. Yeah, yeah, because, like, like I laugh because, you know, uh, Chrysler, they didn't choose the Lamb for their half-ton trucks. You're right. They chose Ram for a reason, right? It's strong, it's tough, it's,
It
you know, it
took me a
it's
minute.
there, right? So, right. So when you think about the language itself, right?
Right.
Just even the word Ram, the power behind it,
Mhm.
right? And like that's the confidence that people really need as small business owners to invoke and call in when they need to take a risk and they need to make a big decision and just kind of jump off the ledge and trust that either the bridge is going to be there for them to step on or the wings are going to come out for them to fly, but they're not going to fall, right? That's and I think we were all talking about the difference between business, a ram versus a lamb. And the lamb is that nurturing person and the relationship building and, all that
So
nice stuff.
we almost need both.
Yeah.
At what point do you kind of pivot? Because I know that you always talk about how important it is to really nurture those relationships. And I know that there's so many touch points that people need before they trust you enough to purchase. And that's more so now than ever. Am I right when I say
Yeah.
that?
Yep.
So
Yeah. Like that nurturing, right? And it goes back to those that I am um persona, right? Like this is who I am. And that being authentic, like people need to know who you are, and they're only going to know that by having a relationship with you, what that relationship looks like. But at some point, you've got to be able to just pull the plug and go, now you need to sign on the dotted line.
yeah.
Now you need to like engage and actually take the next step and commit to whatever that might be, the product or service. But it's only you can tell that by where your relationship is
So it's something
and
that you're
reading.
just kind of intuitively feeling into with the
Yeah.
person.
And
And
then confidence, right? So intuitively knowing where you're at in that know, like, trust framework.
Mhm.
And if you're in that trust point, then are you confident enough to say, okay, now's the time?
Yeah, here
Yeah.
that makes sense. And because people also they wouldn't sign up on our email list or engage with us or watch our content on a regular basis to build that relationship if they weren't interested also in these what our services are in our
Right.
service, right? They would have to like be interested in the first place and then build up and decide like, do I like this person? Do I trust this person? So I think they want to know as well, like, okay, this is what I have to offer. Like, how can I help you? Which would help you the most? Or this is,
Right.
I think this would be beneficial to you. Yeah. And then being confident in that terminology, I guess, or just
Yeah.
being
In the
confident.
transition, right? Like you're transitioning them into this natural conversation to, all right, now,
Mhm.
right? It's a completely different energy. It's like, yeah, hi, great, okay. Now you need to do this.
And I
Now that's authority, right? Now you're stepping into that authoritative position because in the end, people want to be told, right? They want the nurturing, but they, in the end, need to be told this is the solution for you
and enjoy.
because you, yeah,
So I think that is important to have that moment of asking.
yeah,
And I look at it in a few ways. So I think probably for the last decade or so, we've seen a lot of this RAM energy out there in the internet. Like, I don't want to, well, I'm going to stereotype, like a very tech bro, right?
yeah,
And like, this is what I have, and this is what will work, and this is what you need to do. And it's just very about money. And I think it
masculine,
goes back to masculine, right? That masculine
yeah,
energy. So we do need that duality inside of ourselves to have both sides where the people that I feel comfortable with and want to buy for or buy from, it's like on YouTube, for example, it is that, nurturing relationship and then how people
mhm,
work it into their conversation. It's like you
right,
can join, you can subscribe, you can be a part of my community, and
yeah,
you already like that person, you already know that person. It's
right,
worth it. There's value to say,
yeah,
sign me up.
yeah. And I think as a consumer, right, the opposite side, the consumer is we consume as a lamb, we
Mhm.
decide as the ram,
True. Yeah.
right? So as a consumer, we have to be confident that we know the person, we like them, and we trust them. So now I'm confident in the trust. So I can step into that ram energy and say, now I'm going to partner with them. Now I'm going to buy that product. Now I'm going to take the risk and do XYZ. Right. So even on the consumer side, we go from the lamb to the ram.
Right. I see that. And I feel that in people that I've trusted and purchased from. Like
Yeah.
like just today, I got an email from Molly McCord. She's a astrologer, and like she'll send out a lot of tools to help you that are just like, here's this tool, or you might be interested in this video. There's no selling. But then when
Right.
she has an offer, then it's like, well, I want that.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Because she's been nurturing the relationship, but
Mhm.
she's still not coming in like that. It's almost like that ram energy for her isn't that hard, cold, this is it, right? It's just, yeah, maybe I'm a sheep.
Yeah, maybe this will help you.
Maybe this will help you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I think, yeah. So it's interesting, but I think as business owners, we need to be aware of where we are at in that process from lamb and ram and where our clients are.
So does that go back to having that avatar,
Yeah.
knowing
And
who you're
knowing them.
speaking to? And when people, let's say you're in front of a camera and you're making a video, you're creating content. Do you kind of focus on that same avatar every time? Like you're focusing on the person that you're helping, this
Yeah.
ideal. Okay.
Yep. And depending upon your business, you might have a couple of different avatars,
Okay. Yeah.
right? So I think of the women business resource community, we really have two avatars, and we've really been leaning into this actually in the last week. And we've now actually named them. So now we know when we're creating content, we're speaking to Grace, right? Or we're speaking to Emily, right? Grace is, the 30-something-year-old that is just starting her business. She's like less than a year into it. And we know her pain points. We know her language. We know where she's at. Where Emily is the serial entrepreneur. She's been in business for more than 5 years, right? She's looking to scale her business. So as we're creating content now, we're able to say, okay, how are we addressing the pain points for both of our avatars? How will Emily receive this versus Grace? Right. So, like for you, for your business, it's kind of the same thing. Like you can have a very strong singular persona.
Yeah, definitely. Because for me, I'm looking for people who are seekers, who are visionaries, who want to evolve and change and understand themselves more, um, and get on the spiritual path. It's like the kind of spiritually curious type people. I don't know
Yeah.
if those kind of fit into the same mold or not, because I work with people who aren't interested in like woo-woo stuff, right?
Yeah.
They want to know like, their purpose. They want to be empowered and inspired, and I can find all that in their chart. And then I have people who are really interested in like spirituality and like what tools to use. So I kind of lump that together, but I feel like maybe having two separate avatars to create different types of content.
Yeah. So you can still speak to both of them, but it's going to really target the one as the main
Mhm.
focus, where the other is kind of the outlier. And then the other piece of content is you can kind of flip it, right? So yeah, right. So you kind of have like Nancy the newbie,
Mhm. Yeah.
right? And then, I, I don't know, then you think of another name, but right. So then that way you're going, okay, so right now I need to speak to Nancy because she needs this information to get introduced to what I'm doing and how it can support her in her personal and business growth. And then, Bethany is the spiritual beauty, and she wants to become not the guru, but she really wants to bring it into her life more apparent,
Right.
right? So now you're speaking to Bethany differently than you are to
Mhm.
Nancy, right?
And here's
So,
a tip I'm going to give anyone that's nervous about this and worried
oh,
about like putting their message out there. This is my thing. When you're nervous, focus on service. And I think you did tell me
yeah.
something kind of like that, but that's my rhyme.
Okay. I love it.
You're nervous, focus on service. And really taking yourself out of the equation. It's not you. I think that I'll even tell myself, like, stop being in your ego. It's not about you, it's about the
Yeah.
people that you're helping with your voice and your message. So they're out there, even if you
Yep.
don't see it, even if you have 8 subscribers, people are seeing that who need it. And there's a reason that you're called to do what you do.
Yes. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I love it. I'm going to remember that.
Like that.
Yeah. Service. Yeah. I like it. I like it. So what else do we have to talk about? That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. And we'll have a full month of Taurus season to really focus on that Taurus and second house themes, which is not only our self-worth, but also a big part of this is our finances, how we make money. So that type of value.
Okay.
And with the economic climate, the way that it is right
Mm.
now, how we can kind of pivot and change and um, make sure that what we're offering is something that the world needs, and then making sure that we're also okay. Because I
Yeah.
think that that's going to be a big theme coming up
Yes.
a little bit here.
I
I
think self-care is going to be super, super important over the next 6 to 9 months. I think it's
absolutely.
going to be a theme that we're going to like, we'll end up bringing it up naturally anyways. But I think for people that are listening and tuning in, it's self-care has got to be important. It's something you have to identify. You're doing something every day for you, whether it's be a 5 minute walk outside or an extra 5 minutes in the shower to just kind of zone out and reset. But self-care is going to be really, really important.
It's so, yeah,
Yeah.
it's so big. In yeah, grounding ourselves and then being that change that we want to see. I don't want to be super cliche, but I think that's so important is being that change that we want to see in the world. And I think that that can come into the economic landscape by um, not not getting so into the hype and into the fear, because there
Mhm.
is a lot of uncertainty out there, but we live in a very abundant world. I
Yeah.
believe that our currency is going to completely change. So, and that's one great thing with astrology. You kind of you see things ahead of time. And
Yeah.
usually what I see, it'll be a bit down the line, but we will throughout the next month really see things be uncertain and volatile,
Yeah.
like we haven't already.
We could be on here for another couple hours if we go down that path right now.
We could, yeah. So just knowing that things will change, but there's this shining light, and I'm not trying to um, hype it up for no reason. There really is. So
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. Like, right?
I'm,
Yes. But yeah, there's a lot happening, a lot going on. But the when we get through it, right?
yeah.
We're just entering, that the storm. When you think of like the funnel storm and there's the eye,
Yeah.
we're still going through that first half of it. So
But
mhm,
we'll get there sooner than we think. And
yeah.
that's why I might just bring this up every time. We're
Yeah.
moving into a time where it's the prosumer versus the consumer.
Mhm,
Or having your own business and developing your own skills and building your own community is more important than ever. And also that we're making the dream real right now.
yeah.
This period of time, this condensed period of time, is the time to make your dreams reality.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know. I just had a thought. I'm like going, oh no, don't bring it up because that'll be another half hour.
Yeah, yeah. You have a birthday party to get to.
Yes.
Should I grab
Blow
this
balloons.
card,
Yeah, the card.
buddy? Okay.
Yeah.
Listen to your intuitive feelings. Your body is receiving accurate messages from the divine.
Ooh. Okay. So,
With so much information and communication coming out right now, so much hype, so much chaos, know that there's a lot of illusion around that. So please listen to your intuition and let that be your guide. Unplug when needed. That's my
yes.
final message.
Excellent. I love it. Again, right? We started off with that whole the AI and the authentic.
Mhm.
So, do your research, lean in, listen, multiple sources, not just one source of information. Multiple informational sources are available.
Yes,
Mhm.
lots coming.
Okay. Awesome. Okay.
We'll be
That's
back
awesome.
next week.
Yeah. See you next week. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.